Welcome back to Discover Crypto. I just want to say thank you to all of the new subscribers and I hope you're enjoying the content. In today's video we are going to return to the Polkadot Parachain Auctions because contributions are already underway and the first auction is nearly upon us, so I think it's about time we got ready to potentially get involved. Today I'm going to take a closer look at the Acala project. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, right, on parachains.info we are seeing that the first auction is going to commence on November the 11th, 2021. Acala, as I suspected, is out in the lead with nearly 10 million DOT raised out of a hard cap of 50 million. Whenever the first auction begins, it will close on November the 18th, by which point the winner of that first one will be decided. So going to Acala, this is aspiring to be the DeFi hub of Polkadot. It is going to be Ethereum compatible and offer smart contracts. It's going to also function as an AMM DEX with micro gas fees that can be paid in any token. There's going to be a stable coin backed by cross-chain assets, and there will be trustless staking derivatives in the form of liquid DOT. As we can see here, this is what the dashboard is going to look like. It looks pretty well designed compared to a lot of what's out there in DeFi. I will link you to the Acala site so that you can take a closer look, if you will. With Acala, the token that they're going to be releasing is going to be ACA or ACA, and this will be used in terms of the utility of Acala and also for governance, and there can also be utilized by the development team for if adjustments need to be made in terms of collateral. Now with Acala, we're seeing that there is a 50% allocation almost to the community. The maximum supply of the token is going to be 1 billion. It's a fixed supply and it will be deflationary, meaning that whenever the full supply is in circulation it will start to decrease, and this could be due to token burns and fees being burned. But you know, with any new token, if it isn't completely released at the genesis or when the project launches, then it's technically going to be inflationary for a while because they're gradually releasing and unlocking. Now, I found someone's Reddit research who seems to be of the opinion that the early investors, that's the venture capitalists, are going to be having a lockup of 12 months, and then the backers, they're going to have a month, but with 5-month vesting, founding team 18 months. Now, I don't think these figures are totally accurate here, because when we see founding team listed there as 10%, we go back to the Acala page and it actually informs us that the founding team is going to get just over 20%. So this is why it's important to try and cross-reference the information that you have. I looked into Acala's white papers. There wasn't the clearest information provided in terms of visual graphs on tokenomics, and then even in the token economy paper there's not too much provided. However, we do know that there is going to be 1 billion available. Now, how this has an impact in terms of the auction, we know that there's going to be a reward pool of 170 million tokens for this initial parachain launch, and that's 170 million out of 1 billion total supply, so that's 17%. However, whenever we look into the latest Medium article published by Dan Reeser, who is a VP with Acala, we find out that the 150 million is the core reward offering, and then the extra 20 is for additional bonuses for a range of other activities. Some people might have been on the waiting list. There can be referrals, there's VIP initiatives, anyone who contributed or completes quests, anyone who contributed to Karura, which is basically the equivalent product but available on Kusama. And Kusama, for anyone who is not aware, is basically the canary network of Polkadot, and this simply means that it functions like Polkadot in that it's a layer 0 and it connects to other layer 1 chains and brings them all together. However, Polkadot is audited and Kusama is not audited, so that's how that functions. In terms of Acala's development, this is one of the most promising projects in the Polkadot ecosystem, and if Polkadot is going to thrive, then it's going to be because of projects like Acala. They have had numerous Web3 grants, they have achieved many of their milestones. There are a couple that they need to come back to and complete, but there's been a lot of progress here. And I'm going back to the Acala site here, because whenever you're looking into the research on Acala, it's nice because you can find out, who the co-founder is, chief technology officer. There's a lot of information available here. But it's very reassuring when you have a publicly identifiable and accountable team, and many of them are also can be found on Twitter if you want to keep up with them and learn more. I know Dan Reeser is especially active on Twitter and is an amazing educator for Acala and also the Polkadot space. So the partners here, many of these are the investors who got involved in Acala. Now, when you look at some of the projects in Polkadot, I don't know that all of the investors are worth mentioning, because obviously there are different standards, different commitments. Some of them are more eager to run away and take profits in a hurry. Whereas, some of the people involved with Acala, I would hope would have a more longer term commitment. The highlights in terms of the investors, I'm going back to parachains.info here. So there's some pretty big names: Coinbase Ventures, Alameda Research, Pantera Capital, Arrington XRP. If you wish, you can go and look at each of those yourself and see some of the major projects they've been involved with. In my opinion, it's difficult to find another Polkadot project that comes close in terms of the quality of backers. When you have quality backers, they want to have usually long-term sustained success, and then they ideally then leave the project when it's still in a position of success and to grow for the long term. Now I want to start analysing the rewards in greater depth here. So thus far we have basically 20% of the potential contribution. I am aware from reading some people's accounts on Twitter that there are significant unlocks coming up right now with Polkadot tokens. So although the auction starts on the 11th of November and runs until the 18th, there could be a rush in the coming days. But something I'm monitoring, as I am with all of the Polkadot projects, is will there be an opportunity because this ends on November 18th, is there an opportunity here that we maybe only come up to 75% of the hard cap or half by the time the first auction is completing, and you can maybe jump in at the end and get more than the potentially 3 Acala? Because if the hard cap of 50 million is hit, then 3 Acala per dot is guaranteed. That is the minimum. However, if it's not filled, then there will be a higher amount of Acala awarded for each contributor. Now, regarding Acala, whenever you lock up your dot, you require a minimum of 5 dot. Now, please be aware with Polkadot, the actual project itself, they have this rule. I don't necessarily agree with it. I don't think it's potentially, so right now Polkadot is worth about 52 cents, $52.50. But yet, if you make a parachain contribution and you have less than 1.1 dot in your wallet, apparently this gets deleted because of some rule called existential deposit. Now that is enough of a potential irritation that you might want to just contribute to a parachain auction through a centralized exchange such as Binance or Kraken. There are others out there, but I'll leave you to do your research because there are too many to name all at once. But you can also go to @Polkadot, look through the current tweets, and there is a video here explaining in slightly more depth. And you can also look up Polkadot, the term Polkadot existential deposit if you want to learn more about this. But if you're using Polkadot, the Polkadot.js extension or the Fearless wallet, then you need to leave potentially 1.1 dot in your wallet for after the transaction has been completed. By having more than one dot, you won't risk having under a dot wiped off. So it's a rule I don't necessarily agree with, but it's how they operate. This is much less of an impact when you're using Kusama, because Kusama you can have the fractional amount is much lower that you're required to have, so the remainder won't get wiped. This apparently is due to some rule where to save on network congestion and improve efficiency, that although an address remains active, the account is technically shut down temporarily while there's less than a dot. But anyway, I will not belabor that point any further. So whenever you're loaning Polkadot, there's a minimum of 5 required no matter what auction. That's just the rules. So if you're contributing 5 Acala and you're getting, I'm just going to bring my notes over here. So if you're getting 5 Acala, right, and you're receiving, so if you're loaning 5 dot, receiving 3 Acala, you're potentially getting 15 Acala. Now, if you're looking at today's price of $52.50 for Polkadot, and you divide that by 3 Acala, you're looking at a price or a value of $17.50. My highest entry price for dot is $20, so I'd be looking at $6.67. I think this is worth looking at and it's worth considering because dot, there's potentially going to be a supply shock with so many millions of dot being locked up in auctions for weeks to come and years to come even, and there's going to be more and more auctions. There's going to be up to 100, so there could be an increase in the price of dot. However, you will not be able to sell your dot if it is locked up. But if you have some decent entry prices on your dot, then you're maybe going to be a lot less worried. So if you've maybe got in around $20 or less or even lower, you might not think twice about loaning Acala, or maybe you want to hold back some of your dot to sell, contribute some of it to a crowd loan, because at the end of the day you will get the dot back after a project launches on Polkadot and they complete their 96-week slot. You will get your dot back and you will have had rewards along the way. In the case of Acala, it's been reported in the Medium article that 20% will be transferable when the network launches, 80% will be investing, which means that's unlocked in the long term, so you might not get all of it until the 96-week slot is fulfilled. So if you've contributed 5 dot and you're going to get 15 Acala, you will only have 3 Acala initially. Obviously, this is dependent on whether people want to contribute more dot or not, but I just want to quote the minimum here for any everyday investors who want to maybe get involved but don't want to go too far in terms of what they're loaning. Now, whenever we look at the fact that there's 20% transferable, so the rewards are going to be 170 million. So with 20% transferable, we're looking at potentially an initial circulation of 34 million. However, this will then gradually increase as unlocks happen through vesting. So I want to look quickly at Karura here, which is basically the equivalent project of Acala but on Kusama. So the total supply of Acala will be 100 million. The current circulating supply is 18 million. So with those sort of numbers, you can see where Acala is as of today, which is just under $7.30. It's currently tradable on KuCoin and Kraken as two of the more reputable exchanges, among others. In terms of the all-time high of Karura, we're looking at around 13.75 there. So today's price is down by about 47% from the all-time high. So with Acala potentially launching with double the circulating supply of Karura, it's going to be on the more well-known Polkadot network, so there could be enough demand that you would see the initial Acala tokens, potentially trading in a similar range to Karura. I don't want to throw out any price targets, any predictions, because yes, there will be initial demand for Acala ideally when it starts to unlock, but then who knows when a bear market comes and it all changes. Crypto, it can all change at the, it can turn on a dime, so we need to be ready for all sorts of circumstances, and it's why you need to consider your own situation. In the case of Karura, I'm looking at DeFi Llama here. Total value locked around 39.5 million. It's labouring down here. It's just inside the top 250 projects. So, in terms of, Polkadot is new. We don't have it yet. It hasn't had any projects launch yet. So we're going to have that initial growth period. So it's not going to, we're going to need to wait on projects like Acala. We can't expect, for them to moon initially. We can't expect the world. But I just want to show you Polkadot right now. So with Polkadot, a circulating supply of around 1 billion. So Acala plans to eventually have a total supply of 1 billion. But this sort of shows us that you can have a circulating supply of 1 billion and a price of over $50. So for something like Acala, yes, there's possibly room to grow. I'm just going to sum up my thoughts now on Acala. So with Acala, this really is an all-in-one DeFi hub. This is going to provide apps to businesses. It's going to enable consumers to get involved with staking and loaning, and even for the most basic, we're going to have an AMM, decentralized exchange to perform trades, and there's going to be much lower fees. Acala is also a top-notch project because it's built on Substrate, but it's also going to be compatible with the Ethereum virtual machine. It was the front runner on Kusama. It's going to be the front runner on Polkadot. It looks set to win its first parachain auction before it's even started. It's way ahead of the other competitors currently. As for me, I'm waiting and watching with the parachain auctions. I know there have been rewards available for getting in early, but sometimes it can be smarter to not try and beat the rush, to watch and wait and see what happens. I'm going to wait until closer to the end of the auction and see if I can. I'm pretty confident I'm going to at least throw in some DOT to get some Acala, but I might increase my position if we're not going to get to that hard cap. Because if we don't get to that hard cap and it's like half or 75%, then there's potentially more Acala coming. So it might be worth waiting or putting in a little bit and then putting in some later. In terms of this strategy, I just want to say this isn't financial advice and you do have to do your own research. But in my opinion, I wouldn't like investing in any Polkadot Crowdloan if I were an edgy person. I do believe in Polkadot for the long run. I really like Acala as a project. These are blue chip investors who are involved with this project and backing it. The team of developers are public. You know who they are. It's got a decent chunk of the total supply, so 17% is coming out as rewards. So I mean, I think it's a great prospect, but how much I contribute will depend on where the hard cap is going to stand towards the end of the auction, which will start shortly. I would also caution people to think about what their entry price was for the DOT they hold, because you might have to absorb some heavy price decreases if we go into a bearish period over the next couple of years while your tokens are unlocked. And if this is going to impact you mentally and emotionally, then it might not this might not be the best route for you. However, it is worth also remembering that you will get the Polkadot back, and the safest ways to contribute are through the Polkadot.js browser or something like the Fearless wallet, which is the route I'm going to be taking because I find it simpler to use. And this is basically because if you give tokens to a project directly, it does put you at greater risk and puts the tokens at greater risk. But yeah, there's much more to come here at the channel because the parachain auctions are going to be going on for weeks. There are many more projects to cover and updates to come. So yeah, thank you for subscribing, and if you like the video, please click on the like button and help me increase the circulation. Yeah, thanks again for watching. I've been Mike of Discover Crypto.